lovelies, you're welcome back and thanks for tuning in. I'm here today with this video from the Nordics, okay? Titled, the Nordics have the best political system in the world. As someone from Nigeria, I am very curious to see what it looks like to have the best political system in the world, okay? If you're super excited as much as I am and you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a big thumbs up while we get right into it.
Why are countries like Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland and Iceland always topping the charts for happiness, equality and quality of life? What's their secret? Is it just high taxes and free healthcare? Or is there something more to the so-called Nordic model? Here's the real question. Could the Nordic model work anywhere else? Or is it a utopia that only exists because of unique Nordic conditions? And is it really as perfect as it seems? Today we're diving into what makes the Nordic model tick, its myths, its challenges, and why it's captured the world's attention. So you may ask, what the flip is the Nordic model? At its core, the Nordic model is a unique blend of free market capitalism and a strong welfare state. It's characterized by high levels of taxation, universal social benefits, and robust labor protections. This combination aims to balance economic efficiency with social equality. The Nordic countries are renowned for their comprehensive universal welfare programs, which provide free or heavily subsidized access to healthcare, education, childcare, and unemployment benefits. These programs are designed to ensure that all citizens, regardless of income, have access to essential services that promote equality and well-being. Healthcare systems prioritize preventive care and accessibility with minimal out-of-pocket expenses for patients. High tax rates are a cornerstone of the Nordic model, funding the extensive welfare programs that underpin the system's success. In Nordic countries, personal income tax rates can exceed 50%, and there are significant taxes on goods and services through VAT, which typically ranges between 20 to 25%. While these rates may seem high compared to other nations, they are widely accepted due to the tangible benefits citizens receive, such as free healthcare, education and childcare, as well as robust social safety nets. If you add the costs of, in example, healthcare and education in the US on top of their tax rate, then Americans end up having a larger overall financial burden than the average Nordic citizen has through taxes. Strong labor unions are another defining feature of the Nordic model, playing a critical role in shaping equitable workplaces and fostering economic stability. In Nordic countries, a significant portion of the workforce, up to 70% or more in some cases, is unionized. These unions negotiate collective agreements that set industry-wide standards for wages, benefits, and working conditions, ensuring fairness and reducing income inequality. Unlike in many other nations, labor unions in the Nordics often work collaboratively with employers and governments, fostering a culture of consensus rather than conflict. This cooperation supports high levels of employment, productivity, and innovation while maintaining protections for workers. Despite their robust welfare states, the Nordic countries are committed to maintaining strong, open markets that drive economic growth and innovation. These economies embrace free trade, minimal barriers to entry for businesses, and a competitive corporate environment. The Nordic model thrives on balancing economic freedom with social safety nets, enabling businesses to innovate and compete globally while ensuring workers have support during transitions. Nordic countries regularly rank high on indexes measuring ease of doing business, attracting investment, and fostering entrepreneurship. Companies like IKEA, Nokia, Spotify, Maersk, and Novo Nordisk are examples of globally recognized brands that emerged from this dynamic market system. This openness to trade and competition allows Nordic economies to remain resilient and adaptable in a globalized world, proving that a strong welfare state and thriving open markets can coexist and reinforce one another. The result of this mix of helping citizens achieve success, supporting them in healthcare, and partnering a strong state with free markets is what you see today. But how did the Nordic model develop? To understand the model, we need to look at its origins in the early 20th century. The development of this system was shaped by a mix of cultural, political, and economic factors. The Nordic model is deeply rooted in the agrarian collective mindset that developed over centuries in the region's rural societies. Harsh climates, limited arable land, and isolated communities required cooperation and mutual support for survival, laying the cultural foundation for the social solidarity that underpins the modern welfare state. In Denmark, for example, cooperative movements in agriculture emerged during the 19th century, revolutionizing farming practices and rural economies. Farmers formed collectives to share resources, such as equipment and knowledge, and establish cooperative dairies and slaughterhouses to process and market their products efficiently. These movements not only improved productivity, but also fostered a sense of shared responsibility and economic equality. Similarly, in Sweden, parish communities were historically organized to manage common resources, such as forest and grazing lands. This collective approach to resource management created a culture of fairness and trust, which later translated into broader social and economic policies. The Federation of Swedish Farmers also played a key role in organizing rural communities and advancing cooperative farming methods. In Norway, farmers relied on dugnad, a tradition of community labor, where neighbors came together to complete tasks like building barns, harvesting crops, or maintaining infrastructure. This spirit of collective action fostered a deep sense of community and mutual reliance, values that are still evident in Norway's high levels of civic participation and trust in social systems. Norway also introduced state-controlled hydropower plants early on in its history.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Hearing the word trust, like trust doesn't exist in our political system in this part of the world that I am in Nigeria to be precise. There's nothing like trust in the political system because you'll be in a country whereby a politician will come to you and tell you, this is what I'm going to do once I get into power. You guys stand with me, stay with me, make me the leader. And at the end of the day, they do what? They do the opposite of their words. They do the opposite of what they say they're actually going to do. There's nothing like bond. There's nothing like trust. There's nothing like a solid um, a solid relationship between the people and the government. It is really that sad that there's nothing. But seeing this video now, like I'm amazed. Just imagine being in a country where you can trust the government because you can trust the government with what you have. You can trust the government with your phones. You can trust the government by their words. It is totally everything for me. And this is totally amazing because having a government you can rely on and be like, okay, once this person comes in, things are going to turn around. They are going to work with the people to see the growth to make sure we have a working system is absolutely a beautiful one for me. And this is something I have come to respect the Nordics for. Let's get back to it, guys.
Which helped propel its wealth levels to what it is today. Iceland's agrarian roots can be seen, pardon my Icelandic here, in its repia system, an early form of local governance where communities pooled resources to support the poor and manage communal grazing lands. These systems emphasized shared responsibility and decision-making, shaping Iceland's strong social cohesion and resilience. Even Finland, where farming was often supplemented by forestry, developed cooperative movements such as 𝐋𝐈𝐊𝐄 or the Forest Cooperative Society. These collectives allowed small landowners to pool their resources for logging and timber processing, ensuring fair distribution of profits and sustainability. Nordic labor movements played a key role in shaping the Nordic model during the industrialization of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Unions and social democratic parties emerged to fight for workers' rights, fair wages, and better conditions, rooted in the region's culture of equality and collective action. The collaborative approach with employers and governments led to industry-wide agreements on wages and labor standards, avoiding the class conflicts seen elsewhere. This partnership helped build strong welfare systems and labor protections, forming a core pillar of the Nordic model. Cultural values are fundamental to the success of the Nordic model, with trust in government, social cohesion, and equality deeply ingrained in these societies. For instance, in Norway, 48% of citizens reported high or moderately high trust in the national government in 2023, surpassing the OECD average of 39%. These statistics are similar in the other Nordic countries, and trust in the police is well above average in all 5 nations. This trust enables the implementation of extensive welfare systems and acceptance of higher taxes, as citizens believe their contributions are managed effectively. The strong sense of social cohesion and commitment to equality further support policies that promote equal opportunities and reduce disparities, making the Nordic model particularly effective in these countries. The Nordic model is often hailed as a benchmark for balancing prosperity and equality. I'll let you know why I think it is the best way of governing a country in the world today, and to prove it, I'll show you some of the measurements that show why that is. I spoke about this in my video on why dictators hate the Nordic countries, but I'll dive a bit deeper here. Low inequality is a hallmark of the Nordic model, achieved through progressive taxation and redistributive policies. High-income earners pay more taxes, funding universal benefits like free education, healthcare, and childcare. All Nordics countries have some of the lowest Gini coefficients globally, reflecting their success in reducing income disparities. Strong labor unions and collective bargaining further ensure fair wages, preventing extreme pay gaps. This approach fosters social cohesion and economic stability, making the Nordic countries among the most egalitarian in the world. Secondly, it is important to consider what the Nordic citizens think of their lives. As with the last 20 or so years, a Nordic country has been on top of the World Happiness Index, with all the others being top 10 consistently, and most often, Nordic countries can be found in 4 out of the 5 top spots on the ranking. Economic competitiveness is a key strength of the Nordic model, demonstrating that a robust welfare state and a thriving market economy can coexist. Nordic countries consistently rank among the most competitive economies globally, with all 5 economies being in the top 20 worldwide. Businesses benefit from open markets, minimal barriers to entry, and transparent regulations, which foster entrepreneurship and global trade. The last and likely most important measurement for a country's success is how corrupt it is. The Nordic countries consistently rank among the least corrupt nations in the world, reflecting their strong governance and transparency. In the 2023 Corruption Perceptions Index by Transparency International, Nordic countries ranked in 4 out of the top 6 spots for the least corruption out of 180 countries. This low level of corruption is attributed to high levels of trust in government, strict accountability measures, and robust legal frameworks. Despite its reputation, the Nordic model is often misunderstood. Let's clear up some common myths, often thrown at the Nordics by people from either extreme side of the political spectrum. I'm going to start off with a bit of a pet hate for myself. Often, when I talk about the Nordics with colleagues or friends from America, France, the UK, or South America, the term socialism is often thrown at me as an accusation. While the system includes strong social programs, it's far from socialist. The economies are market-driven, with private ownership and free trade playing crucial roles, but with a state capable of taking care of the people's interests if a market sector gets out of hand. Neoliberals will often say that
Tell me why I wouldn't pay tax if there is a working system. Tell me why the governments will be doing something that will benefit the people, the citizen, and I will pay more and more and more. In fact, I won't be asked before I pay. Like high taxes, when you're in a country where there is high tax and you're seeing the purpose of this tax, you will be glad, you will be very, very glad paying your tax. Not like this other side of the world. If the governments are doing what they're supposed to do and the requirement is just the tax, why won't I? I will gladly pay my tax before it is even due.
the
Let's get back
Nordics
to
are
it.
just giving everyone free tax money, creating a weaker participation in work life. However, this is total nonsense. All statistics show that there's no correlation between a strong welfare state and unemployment. In fact, both Norway and Iceland have less unemployment than the US, where you need to work to live. A social safety net seems to contribute to people getting back to work, rather than the opposite. Again, this argument is one I hear a lot from my American and UK friends. But when you add up all the expenses an American has to pay because the state doesn't help, the overall financial load for living a healthy life is generally higher than any of the Nordic countries. We accept high taxes because we receive good services back. Furthermore, the Nordic economies are on par in both competitiveness and all indexes of a healthy economy with all other nations on Earth. While the GDP per capita is slightly below the US, the money made are spread much more evenly among the population, rather than mega-rich oligarchs. Out of the 5 Nordic states, only Norway has considerable quantities of oil and gas. And as we discussed in a previous video, Norway didn't get rich because of oil, but rather used the oil to get richer. Oil isn't necessarily a golden ticket to a good state. If so, Russia, Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and so on would be the best countries on earth to live in. All 5 countries in the Nordics do well with trade and innovation, which is the key indicators of a successful economy. Before you head into the comments to say that the Nordic countries aren't perfect, yes, we know, the Nordic model isn't without flaws. Here are some of its challenges. High taxation is something the Nordic culture is used to. You almost become conditioned to seeing it as a necessity in order to have a functioning state. Implementing the same in a country where people are distrustful of the state would not work. It would need to be a slow process where societal institutions would need to prove that they can handle the added responsibility and funding.
Alright, so quick one. If you can speak, write, and understand good English, and you consider yourself someone who is...
Like many developed nations, Nordic countries face pressure on pensions and healthcare due to aging demographics. This is something that needs to be addressed in the coming years by either increasing the funding for families, or the Nordics would need to adopt the Japanese or South Korean-style managed decline, which by all accounts works fairly well. Immigration integration is a complex challenge for Nordic countries, balancing their commitment to equality with the practicalities of integrating newcomers into their societies, who often do not share their love for religious freedom and democracy. In Sweden, unemployment rates among foreign-born residents remain significantly higher than native-born citizens, with a 2022 report showing a gap of nearly 10%. Social housing shortages in Denmark have led to the concentration of immigrants in specific areas, contributing to segregation and slower integration. It seems that more and more political parties are waking up to the fact that the immigration policies of the last few decades have caused significant issues, particularly in Sweden, and that the screw is about to be tightened. Nordic countries with their small export-driven economies are highly sensitive to global market shifts and trade disruptions. Exports account for a significant share of GDP, between 70 to 40% in all nations, making them reliant on international demand and supply chains. Events like the COVID-19 pandemic and geopolitical tensions between China and the US highlight their vulnerability to global slowdowns and instability. One of the big questions is whether the Nordic model could work in other countries. While some aspects, like universal healthcare or labor protections, can be adapted, the model is deeply rooted in Nordic culture and history. Trust in government, social cohesion, and a collective mindset are critical factors that aren't as prevalent in other parts of the world. Still, there are lessons to learn. Investing in education, reducing inequality, and balancing market efficiency with social welfare are principles that any nation can apply. To conclude, the Nordic model is more than just high taxes and social benefits. It's a carefully balanced system that prioritizes equality, innovation, and quality of life. While it's not perfect, its successes have made it a global benchmark for what societies can achieve with the right policies and cultural foundations. So, is the Nordic model something the world should emulate, or is it a unique system that only works in its specific context? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Have a great one, folks.
Absolutely, yes. The Nordics political system is what most especially we from this side of the world, the Africans, need to emulate. I mean, this is so beautiful. You can complain about high tax, where the governments are actually using the taxes right, where they are not embezzling the taxes. When you are seeing what the governments are actually using this tax for, you're seeing improvements in education, healthcare, and so on. In fact, you'll be glad paying these taxes. You will be willing to pay. Like myself, I'll be willing to pay when there is a moving system, a working system. This is a very beautiful video, and I wish everybody needs to see this. I just want everybody to see this. See you all on my next one. There's no time left.